This is, again, the Analyzing Your Results webinar. What I'm going to do is walk you guys through looking at the survey results, and then I'm going to show you some of the analytics inside of the segmentation funnel so you can kind of get an idea of how to read those things and use them to optimize your own funnels. So that is what we're going to be looking at today. Just like every other call, once we get to the end of this, I will give you guys a link in chat to schedule a one-on-one call with a bucket specialist, which will be either myself or one of our other awesome specialists here to help you with anything that you're working on inside of Bucket. All right. The main objectives of today's call is, again, like I said, we're going to be analyzing responses. I'll show you how to read and play with the word cloud to get the most use out of it, and then we'll dive into some of the analytics for segmentation funnels, and I'll just kind of show you guys how to look at those and how to use them when you're driving traffic, so that you're getting the highest conversion rates. All right, so let's jump right over to the Discovery Survey Analytics. What I'll do is I'm gonna pull these questions up because let me just check. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have our support specialist on the line with us today, but that's all right. I think I can handle you guys. So we're inside a Bucket right now, and I'm going to pull up some Discover surveys. Real quick, just a show of hands. Does anyone in here have a Discover survey that they have responses on? If you have launched your own Discover survey and you have some responses on it, you can just like say, I have, or me, or yes, or whatever. Chris? Okay, cool. Yes, we have a test. Yes, I have some. Okay, cool. So then let us kind of dive in here. And if you guys have any questions on these, just let me know. So I'm going to pull up, let me see if I can find one with, I think most of these do not have, okay. Well, I'm going to pull up some of these. A lot of these do not have opt-in rates on them, so we're just going to have to look at just kind of some of the word cloud stuff. But I'm going to do, let's see if I can pull up one with more than 200. I'm sure I've got one. Yeah, here we go, 263. All right, so I've got this one that's got 263 responses. I like the ones with a lot of responses on them, simply because it lets us kind of play around with the word cloud a bit. And so what I want to do here is just kind of, first of all, let's take a look at this stuff. So this first top of the screen here, what we're looking at is the actual performance of the survey itself, right? So we're able to see how many people actually saw the survey, right? You see this number here, 456, versus the number of people that actually took the survey. So out of 456 people that saw it, only 263 actually completed it. Now, that is less than 60%. Not an awful number, but can you see where there might be some room for improvement, right? If you're sending people to a survey that you're expecting them to take and you've got a big drop like that, there's something to look at there, right? And so that's that kind of first piece of information that we have to work with. The good news is that everyone who took it, well, it was only one question, so you got a really it's almost a perfect rating, right? What I'll do is I'll show you guys one that has multiple questions here in a second so you can kind of get a better idea of the completions. Because what you want, once they've started, you definitely want it to be in the 95% to 99% range. I would say anything lower than 95%, you would want to take a look at it. And then, of course, there's no opt-in rate on this one because we didn't ask for email. So does this all make sense to everybody? Like the performance side, like basically this top portion here is a snapshot of how this thing's working, right? If it's not doing well, if people are not filling this thing in, then we need to go and figure out why. Um, cool. So it looks like everybody is on the same page with me here. All right. So one of the things that we can look at here is you know what? I actually, after we're going to take a look at this word cloud because I picked this one because it's got a lot of responses and we can play with the word cloud a bit. But I definitely want to walk you guys through some of the options because most of you are probably doing more than one question, correct? Can you guys give me an idea about how many questions you're asking in your surveys? Just off the top of your head, it doesn't have to be like exact. Okay, I've got 3 questions on one, six questions. Okay, 3 questions, 3 questions. Okay, a lot of you are asking 3. Another 6. About 8. 12. Oh yeah, someone's got a super long survey. 12 is 1. So okay, so then I definitely want to get you guys into those features, but real quick, I'm going to walk you through this word cloud, and then we're going to go find a survey with multiple responses so I can help you understand like how to read that stuff too. All right, so first things first, if you're not familiar with how a word cloud works, I talk about this a lot in our getting started surveys or webinars, but just so you know here, the word cloud is based on the actual words that are typed into the long form boxes that you have on your survey. So you see you've got all these people typing all these words in. Well, what happens is the more times a word is used, the bigger it appears on the word cloud. So we can actually go in here and see some of these larger words really starting to pop out at us, right? And these are the words that we're going to use to pay attention to when we're digging through some of these really big responses. Because what I always like to do is I will read at least the top 20% of every one of these responses that comes in, at the very least. I'll try to read them all so that I can kind of get a better understanding of what's happening. But what this word cloud really does is it tells me where I definitely should be looking and what kind of like gives me some ideas of what to expect when I'm reading through. So what I'd like to start off with is to get an idea of the question. Let me see. So of course, for some reason I thought it would pull up this whole question, but it does not. So I'm going to back out real quick. I'm going to get the question. I'm going to show you guys something that I like to do. Boop, boop. Let's see here. Trying to remember what it was actually called. Oh, it's this one right here. Get the link for it. I want to see what the survey actually was. For registering for the branch, this was for the branching logic webinar. Take some ways to do a better job of supporting you. Okay. So what I would like to do here then is, so what I just did is I kind of looked at the question, because one thing you can always kind of bank on when you are, one thing you can always bank on is that when people will use what you ask them in the question in your in their responses to you, right? So if you're talking about a webinar, they're probably going to use the word webinar a lot, and some other things here. So one of the things that you can do as far as getting the most value out of your word cloud here is you can come over and you see where it says words and does a drop down. You can get an idea of kind of like, you can actually get rid of some of the words, like in this case you can get rid of a dash, right? The word I'm. Let's see, sure, great, no, good. I like leaving support in there. How I like to leave that. Yeah. All right. All right. So now you can see where, in this case, some of the words start standing out, right? The word more, obviously, right? So when I'm looking at more, I'm thinking, what do they want more of? What do you want? You want more webinars, more support, more training, more survey, more segmentation. So you see here how I could go in and start pulling out the ideas of what to expect when I'm going in and analyzing some of the 263 responses in there. Now I at least have an idea of kind of what to have my antennas more or less looking for, right? Is this making sense to everybody on how you would use this word cloud to kind of start getting the idea of what you're getting into? Yes, yes. Okay, good. So you guys are understanding like how I'm kind of pointing myself in the right direction with the word cloud. And you're going to do the exact same thing with yours. So, I mean, obviously yours aren't going to be anything like what I'm getting here, but what you're looking for is in relation to what question you asked, the word cloud will tell you, hey, start here, 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 and here. That way, when you're actually reading through some of these, I mean, you see some of these responses, I'm going to click on it. Some of these responses are extremely long. Some of you probably wrote these yourselves if you were on that specific webinar. And the idea is, so while I'm reading these, I'm going to read them all, but it's always a good idea to be looking for certain things, and knowing that before you go in kind of helps you get the most out of the time and energy that you spend analyzing your responses. And that's the beauty of the word cloud. So let me give you guys a couple more ideas here about how to use this tool. So one of the things that I showed you was I was taking out some of these other words to kind of make room and kind of bring out some of the other stuff, right? Well, there's another tool here where you can kind of adjust the number of words that Bucket is analyzing for you. And so what that means is, so you see here, at the very top, it says 1,000, I don't know, what was it, 27, 34? 1,034 words. Well, obviously there's more than 1,034 words in that giant list of responses. But these were 1,034 unique words, okay? So what you can always do, and what I suggest you do, is kind of start getting rid of some of those words to really dial in what you're looking for. So as you can see, as you start kind of getting out some of the smaller words in the background, all of a sudden, you get down here at 400, 500, and some of these, more important words kind of start, some of the less important words start kind of filtering themselves out, and you start getting an idea. Again, when you're looking at a lot of responses, you could end up just, neck deep in just people, what they're saying, and it's hard to see the forest for the trees. That's the beauty of the word cloud, is it gives you, no matter how many responses there are, you can always adjust to kind of keep it kind of like a North Star, so to speak. So the reason I kind of want to harp on this is again, because it's a really good tool. I know that some people don't understand exactly how to use it in relation to analyzing survey data. Okay, so I'm going to go through, it looks like a couple of questions have popped up here. So I'm going to go backwards. Yes, it's the less number of words, the less used words that start getting filtered out. The further down you go. So as you're sliding it down, the less used, so we'll go all the way up to the top here, right? And we've got all these different lot, well, these really tiny words, 15, those words start getting knocked out, right? The further down you go. And then you start kind of getting into the meat of things, as you get closer to 300, 400, right? So that's how that slider works. You can also turn on just hypers, which is just the words from the top 20%. So you can see that number drops, the unique number drops quite a bit. And then you can also look at the non-hypers. Does that make sense? So if you wanted to see, well, what's the difference between the people who are really filling out the form here, that the hyper, we'll call them hyper responses. The more they fill in, the more information they're willing to give you. We call those hyper responses. And if you separate the two, you can start to get an idea of the difference in the responses, if there is any. Does that make sense? Is it important to have a long form question in the survey? Honestly, I don't think it's a survey unless you do a long form open-ended question. Just because, I mean, well, it is a survey, obviously, but I don't know if you can get nearly as much out of it if you're not asking those questions and getting the open-ended responses. Because without that open-ended responses, you're kind of still stuck on what you already know. You might be able to get some configuration down, like correlating different answers with each other, but having an open-ended response that you can, again, get them to tell you exactly how they see things, that is the difference between, I think, a fantastic survey and a survey that just kind of tells you what you already know, right? Like, it's really hard to learn anything if you're not letting people tell you in their own words. Okay, I've got a question here from Ellen that asks, do you recommend using open-ended responses with segmentation surveys? No, I don't. Unless you're somehow using it in a way that will help you close the sale. If you're using a segmentation funnel, for instance, to sell somebody, I don't know, let's just say, for instance, coaching, right? And they tell you all about themselves, and then at the end you say, well, is there anything else you think I should absolutely know, or what's the biggest challenge, or something to that effect that will help you sell them something? Then sure, add it in. But the segmentation, you're not going to be getting this kind of analysis on the open-ended questions on a segmentation funnel. You're only going to get this analysis on a discovery survey, because the segmentation funnel is about that front-end marketing. So that you would use the segmentation funnel after running a survey, so you know kind of what to offer the people who are in the audience that was filling out your surveys. Does that make sense? Yes? Yep. Cool. You're totally welcome. So again, word cloud points you in the right direction, and let's kind of take a quick look at the responses real quick here, because a lot of you, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a lot more you can do with your responses outside of Bucket, right? So Bucket just kind of tells you, kind of gives you that starting point, helps you analyze, helps you see where things are from a graphical standpoint. But I would still say to everyone here, go ahead and download it into a spreadsheet and continue your analysis over there, right? I mean, pull the data apart, play with it, move things around, create, action out of it. And I know a lot of you are in the Ask method, and they have a full-blown, like that. I mean, that's all they train you to do, right? They teach you how to analyze surveys and things like that. But if you do want to export your survey out of Bucket, just click on that export CSV button up here, put your email address in, and then based on however many responses you have in there, it could dictate how long it takes. Usually it's pretty quick. Put your email address in, and Bucket will process and send you that CSV file automatically. Is there a way to upload a CSV file into Bucket to use a word cloud and analyze the answers? No, unfortunately, right now there's not. So right now you can only export and take in the data. I mean, if you, yeah, I I wasn't gonna tell you to do that. Um, Chris said he had to enter all his old answers by hand into a survey. I wouldn't tell you to do that because that just sounded like it's not fun to do. But right now, that's how you would do it. There's not an uploading. Yeah, I bet you that was a fun weekend. Um, okay, I got another question here. Hi, I was asked to get on this call by a colleague 5 minutes before it started, and I'm lost. Is this part two of something you've already started? Valerie, no, this is just we're just talking about reporting for use for inside of Bucket. If you're not using Bucket, like if you haven't started running a survey or any kind of segmentation funnel in Bucket, this may not be the best webinar. This is we're talking all about the survey um, analytics and reports here. Chris grew a beard while he was entering 300 responses by hand. Yeah, that just sounds like so much fun. So unfortunately, right now we do not upload just for the tool. There are other word cloud tools out there, though, guys. So I don't have it all in front of me right now, but if you have that kind of data, I mean, just you can paste a bunch of words into one place. All right. So this is how, this is how the response is. Okay, so now what I wanted to do is before we move on to segmentation funnel reporting, I do want to walk you guys through a report where there was multiple questions because, like I said, most of you had 12, 3, 6, and more questions. So let me see here. You know what? I think, don't the 101 call, I want to pull up, see, that one's got, is this 101? No. Sorry, I don't mean to talk in your guys' ear, like mumble in your ear. I'm just trying to find, all right, here's one with about 22. That's probably good. So I'm going to click on the analytics on this. Let me see if it has multiple questions on it. I started asking multiple questions. Yeah, okay. So this one, this survey is, as you can see, has a pretty dismal opt-in or participation rate here. And this is the first time I'm noticing this. So as you can see, 89 people saw this, but only 22 people completed it. So if this was something that I was running on multiple occasions, and this, and I wanted to fix this, and this number popped up, I would definitely this would give me cause to optimize. Right, 25% is not a wonderful great response. However, the good news is that everyone who did go through it completed it all the way, and the opt-in rate was perfect almost, except for one person, and I know who you are. I'm just kidding, I don't, obviously, because you didn't opt in. But anyways, but yeah. So what I would do if this was a single survey or a survey that I was trying to get a ton of responses on, I would be concerned with this low participation rate. That tells me, because the first thing, since there's no welcome page on here, it tells me that people didn't really know what to expect when they got here, and so, or even better, maybe I didn't ask this question right, because on this one we ask, so I know how to help you on our call. What part of Bucket.io have you struggled with the most? So maybe that's not the best answer for these one-on-one calls. Like, I'm actually just kind of going and looking at this now and saying maybe there's a better way of doing this, right? The good news is that the rest of the questions were on point enough to get 100% completion rate. But does that make sense to you guys, like how you would see this on if it was your own? Chris is asking, if I use a lead pages landing page instead of bucket.io, will Bucket give participant rate versus view rate for landing page? No, that's impossible. The only way you would get the same thing, but your participation rate would be at the point of the first question. So if you use a lead pages landing page, then the participation rate would start once they hit Bucket. But then you just have to be able to take your own analytics from lead pages and say, okay, well, I had 1,000 people hit this page, and only 200 of them made their way all the way to Bucket. But yeah, but then Bucket could give you the opt-in rate if you're running your opt-in page from Bucket. Yes. Okay. So anyways, one of the other things I wanted to point out here, so there's this other option when you have actual radio button questions and checkboxes. Let's just bring this stuff up real quick, just so you can kind of get an idea of what this is. As you can see here, when I asked if you were enrolled in the ask method on this one, it's 50-50, right? 50% of the people were, 50% of the people were not. Now, what I'm looking at here, you see where it says hyperline. This line, I'm going to just read it off to you because I know a lot of people don't mouse over these things. The hyperline represents where the top 20 participants falls for each individual answer. So basically what that's telling you is that we expect the top 20% of your responses to be right about this line. So if it's below here by a lot, then you want to look, then maybe your hypers aren't over here. Maybe your hypers are on the one that's overrepresented. You see what I'm saying? What that means is the people who select this answer are more likely to be hyper responsive than average. So, so if, for example, you were to discover participants who answer A were more likely to be hyper responsive than participants who answered B, then you could take insight on this, take action on this insight by targeting those people. So in this case, again, I'm not using men or women. I'm using are you in ask method or not. And it looks like most of the hyper responsives, again, this is a very small sample, but the hyper responsives in this case were the people who were not in the ask method. So yours is going to be obviously different, but this is what you're looking at. So on here, what you're looking for is your hypers. If they're answering whatever question they're answering, that's kind of where you're looking at your hypers to be. The same with over here. Again, such a very small sampling. It's not, I would definitely not make any business decision just strictly off of this information, but this kind of helps you gauge what's kind of the 80-20 rule here? Like, where are most of your people at? Is this all making sense? I got 2 yeses. Do I got any no's? No no's. I like it. Perfect. All right, and then the same thing over here with the word cloud. Oh, and then one other thing too, when you do have, and I'm not gonna, oops. One thing what happens here is when you do have an opt-in, it does have the responders information with it. So again, you're not going to usually have one that doesn't have any contact info with it. Most of those surveys that you're going to run will have the contact info inside of it. So here you got email, name, hyperscore, so that when you export this stuff out, you'll know who is who, right? So if you do want to follow up with them, like on phone calls or emails, you've got all that information. All right, everybody on the same page. We're going to jump. Is there any other questions on Discover Survey Analytics and reading those reports? Nope. That's one no. Going once. Awesome. Cool. And so let's do this. Let's jump over here and let's take a look at segmentation funnels. So what I'm going to do here, I don't have a lot of I've got mostly segmentation funnels with just kind of for testing purposes in this account. Let me see what I've got in this one. I know I have at least one. Yeah, I've got one that for testing purposes, I just went and tested to see how it would work on this account. And I'm going to walk you guys through it because I want you to see what it looks like when it doesn't quite go the way you hoped it would. Don't you love those? Like, you always see people like showing off, oh, this is so awesome, it works perfect, but very rare do people show you the ones where it's just like, oh, man, we should have done that a little different. So that's this one. All right, so this one's got about 150 people that went through it. Now, one of the first things we want to look at here is, this is in segmentation. So what we notice here, let's just see, first of all, I want to see if I can get you guys to help me out here. So we have 776 people saw this segmentation funnel. And out of that, 169 actually went past the welcome page. Would you say that it's a good or a bad number there? I'm going to go with probably not optimal, right? Yeah, bad. You're exactly right. Okay, just pour it on, folks. Anyways, yeah, just not good, right? I mean, if you're paying, let's just say you paid, and we didn't pay anywhere near this, but let's say you paid $1 a click, right? You spent $776 for 160 people to go through your segmentation funnels. So that's awful. But so now we have that kind of baseline, right? So you know, maybe about 20. What is that? About 20%. 20% of the people clicked on the button to go through the segmentation funnel. And then what we see here is that 91% fell off at this first question. And then for the rest of the segmentation funnel, about between 96 and 97% answered the rest of the questions. So remember I said earlier, if you're chugging at less than 95% completion rate, there's something wrong with the question. So we've got 2 points of failure here, right? We got really poor click-through on the home page or the welcome page to the segmentation funnel, and then that first question really had a big drop-off, 10% drop-off. So there was a couple of things that we learned, and I'll walk you guys through so you can see what this looked like and why I think it did poorly. And I don't have, in this account, I don't have the upgraded analytics, but we did get it to perform 100% better. So don't feel bad. We fixed it. But without this data, we wouldn't have known. We would have just been like, well, I guess we got a handful of leads. But as you can see here, so going even further, you see that even the opt-ins was pretty poor as well. So we've got, you know, on this one was a 14% opt-in rate and a 6% opt-in rate on the different lead captures. So that, again, just all around boo-boo, right? And one of the things that we figured out was, okay, first of all, we figured out why was nobody clicking on this. What we did different, so I'm going to just give you a quick preview so you can see. So there was just literally zero copy on the welcome page to begin with, and there was this just kind of bland image that took them to a start here button. what we ended up doing, just so you know how we got it to performing really well, was we added a video and some really compelling copy, right? That was the first move. Then remember, this question we noticed was having a lot of drop-off. This one had a 10% drop-off on it. So what we did then, we said we added an extra button here, 10 plus years, and that picked up the slack. It was 10% of the people were getting out of here because they just didn't fall into this category. For the opt-ins, there was a few things that we changed on the copy side of that. But again, the idea isn't just to walk through and just trash this funnel that we threw together. The idea is to show you how the analytics of this report made it possible for us to change the right things. If this was just just a regular funnel that we had set up, we wouldn't know where were these people dropping off. What's happening. It's being able to go in and analyze the reporting to help us, understand what's happening in our inside our funnel. There's a couple other things that you want to look at too here, and I think we pulled up here. One of the big issues is you can notice here that more than 50% of the responses were under this "I'm already retired." So we were able to adjust our copy to target those people and bring in the right people onto this ad to begin with. So again, that's just a whole other thing about copy and analyzing your funnel. But you see what I'm saying? So being able to analyze your reports and seeing who is filling this thing out really helps you out. You notice how the rest of them were all pretty similar. There was only one that was just like way over. There was another one here that was, yeah, it was about this one was about 50% as well. So again, what you're looking at on this report is being able to tell, hey, who's filling this thing out? Am I over targeting? Am I under targeting? Am I getting the wrong people, the right people? Who's overrepresented? Who's underrepresented in my marketing? And then how do I use this information to get better results in a more optimized funnel? And that's the beauty of these reports. Is this making sense to everyone? Ellen asked, is that 95% completion rate of those who actually started the survey, of those who landed on? Yeah, so the 95% completion rate, the overall completion rate was from everyone who clicked on the start button on the welcome page. From that point, on average, it was 95% all the way through. That's right. It's not the welcome page, it's the page after the welcome page. You're welcome. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it, right? So I've shown you kind of how do you analyze a Discover survey, the results of a Discover survey. We've looked at kind of how do you analyze the results of a segmentation funnel, and because again, the goals of the survey obviously is to give you insight, right, and help you understand who your market is and how to, what can you give them, how do you talk to them, and all that. And the role of the segmentation funnel is to show you how it's performing and give you the ability to constantly make it better, so that when you're driving traffic to it, they're converting more and you're making more sales. So that is pretty much it. That's the analysis of it all. That's reporting. So do we have any questions on any of this stuff? Doesn't look like it. Well, that's amazing. Well, it's about, I told you, I promised you we would probably get out of here early. Let's do this. Why don't, can you perform more detailed analysis, or is that all done in Excel after exporting the data? Yeah, so to do an actual full-blown analysis, I mean, like reading everything out, breaking things out, kind of compiling things into categories and things along those lines, you're definitely going to do an export, right? Um, and you're going to need to be able to kind of move it around. In Bucket, that front end analysis to kind of give you the baseline of what you're looking at and telling you, like here, let me jump back over to Discover. So the big stuff, like the big rocks of like, let me use one that has multiple questions on it. Just grab the wrong one. I like doing the one with the multiple questions so that you can kind of go a little bit deeper, right? So that you can see who is what, like at a kind of a glance, right? So, if you were, let's say in your survey, you're looking for men and women, right? Right off the bat, you come click on the men and women question, you'll immediately be able to see, if the blue was men and the green was women, you would know right off the bat, okay, most of my people are men, right? Like it's just, something like that, that's obvious. But what's not so obvious, and what I would say would require like a spreadsheet, would be if you wanted to go in and start theming out your each of your responses, right? So for instance, because what we can't do inside of Bucket is say, well, you've got integration, people that have integration issues, or people who have, or let's just not even say it, because I think this was about integration. I think, Infusionsoft, MailChimp, and I don't know, what's another one? Yeah, let's just say Infusionsoft or MailChimp, for instance. Let's say those were the two themes that we came up with out of this specific survey. Then I would want to go in and theme all these people with each one of those two themes, right? Read through each one, okay, and then kind of decide how do I sell to each one of those. Does that make sense, Michael? Cool. You're welcome. Yeah. So again, I would definitely, and we do it here. We get all this stuff, but then we always still go in and pull things down into Excel just so we can massage it and play with it. But anyways, guys, that's the basis of the analytics. Just make sure if you ever get lost, like where do I go to get the analytics? All you got to do is for each survey or segmentation file, just click on the analytics. It takes you right in. And if you need to export, one more time, I'm going to show you this one more time. If you need to export, just click on responses right there, and then click on export CSV. Because when you first get in, you're going to be like, well, where's the export button? Responses, so that you can see them all, and then export. And that, my friends, I believe is that. So, if you've ever been on one of these before, like I said, real quick, Chris, I'm going to jump. I'll get to that question in 1 second because I want to read it out loud. Sounds kind of feature requesty to me. But the first thing I want to do is get this link out to you guys. So what I just did is I grabbed a link for the one-on-one call schedule. And if you would like that, I'm just putting a link to it in the chat right now. Can you guys let me know if you got this? Did everybody get this link? I just put a link if you wanted to schedule a one-on-one call. Chris got it. Anybody else get it? Nelson got it. Awesome. Cool. All right, cool. Ellen got it too. Cool. All right, so Chris asked, I exported my responses and then sorted them into buckets. Does Bucket.io plan to have that feature done internally in the software. So I don't know, man. I honestly I don't think so, because that now you're starting to kind of get in the, you know, in like the kind of data modeling, and I don't know if that's the idea here, right? I think the idea is for you to be able to export this stuff out. We'll give you enough tools to kind of point you in the right direction so you can analyze your survey. Again, I'm not telling you this is a no for sure, but I'm just kind of thinking in the direction of what Bucket really is, which Bucket is all about, mainly about getting you to the point where you're using the segmentation funnels, right? So that you can get, not just know the buckets, but be able to get the people into the buckets, right? And so I don't know how deep they plan on going with the data modeling stuff. Dan, are you talking about the link? You weren't be able to click it? Said it's there, not clickable. Well, let me see if I can make it clickable. Were you able to get, like, copy and paste it in? There's like all these different. Let me see. I'm try putting it in one more time. Dan, try that. Copy and paste work. Cool. All good. Okay. Okay, cool. So we got that link out. That's good. So yeah, definitely. And the thing, you guys usually, I usually go into my whole pitch about the one-on-one calls. I can't promote them enough, right? I mean, it's like I know everyone that's used them has come on the other side of them for the better. If you've been on one, hopefully you feel the same way. But yeah, they're totally free. As long as you're paying for Bucket, you get access to a Bucket specialist. It's not a phone call, it's a Zoom chat where we literally can share screen, walk you through your account, look over your shoulder, and make sure you are getting Bucket used the best way possible. And actually, the idea is to get you out of Bucket so you're focusing on your business and not really sitting around worried about, is this thing right or wrong? So that's what those are for. And you're welcome to one. Anytime you get on one of these webinars, at this point anyways, we offer them as, totally free as part of the service. All right. Well, question coming. It's probably going to be long if you wrote question coming before you put the question out there. So this should be fun. All right. I'm going to wait. You guys, I think, so I'm all about taking questions now. So we've kind of covered it all. Oh, you lost really? You lost the question? I better stop. I'm going to